Welcome to the April spring break edition of the Kern LAFCo. During tonight's meeting, we'll be addressing an unusual annexation, move on to some policy issues that will affect the budget discussion, and then, with the permission of the chair, we will deal with the final draft of the budget for 25-26. So there are a few moving parts to tonight's meeting. A couple notes regarding how this meeting is held both in person and by video conference. For our guests who are in the room, if you are a representative from an agency and hear from the general public and wish to speak on an item before the commission, we ask that you use the microphone at the podium. We are recording these proceedings and want to make sure that you are heard clearly both in the room and online. For those attending by video conference, if you are from an agenda or the public and your microphone is muted until the chair recognizes you and the host unmutes your microphone. There will be an opportunity to speak on specific items on the agenda. Please use the raise hand function to be recognized. Mr. Rice is in charge of the Zoom portion of the meeting. If anyone gets disrupted, Mr. Rice has authority to remove them from Zoom. Or if anyone needs to recuse themselves, Mr. Rice can place them in a waiting room and bring them back again when the agenda item is complete. With that, thank you, everyone, and we'll get the meeting started. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. Everyone, welcome to our LAFCo meeting of April 16th. At this time, we will call the roll.
Commissioner Ayon,
Present.
Commissioner Clark,
Present.
Commissioner Couch,
Here.
Commissioner Endicott,
Present.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Fowler, absent. Commissioner Gonzalez, absent. Commissioner McKibben,
Present.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Present.
Roll call complete.
Thank you. Brings us to item 2, invocation. If Commissioner Zaragoza would lead us in prayer.
Be glad to.
Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here today in your presence with grateful hearts. Thank you for bringing us together as a commission. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we discuss the matters before us. May our words be filled with love and respect, and may our decisions reflect your will. Help us to seek unity and understanding, promoting peace and compassion among one another. We entrust this meeting to you, Lord, and pray for your blessings upon our time together. To God be the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
That brings us to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner McKibben will lead us in the pledge.
Please follow me in the pledge to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, item 4, video conference request. Any clerk or commissioner that is attending by video conference? I believe we have one.
We do. Commissioner Ione is on. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Schroeder.
Sure.
He's supposed to tell us if there's anybody in the room with him. Saul, is there anybody in the room with you?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks. That brings us to item 5, approval of the minutes from March 19th, 2025 meeting. Is there any public comment on our minutes? Okay, seeing none, any commissioner comments?
I move approval.
Okay, approval. A motion, Commissioner Couch?
Second, McKibben.
Okay, call the vote.
Commissioner Ayon,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Couch,
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner McKibben,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 6, public comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record before making your presentation. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments this evening?
No.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 7, determination proceeding. This is 1852, City of Delano, Special Annexation Number 58. Pursuant to Government Code Section 56743, the City of Delano requests inclusion into the city's boundaries, property purchased by the city for the purpose of providing increased services. Executive Officer Report, Mr. Knox.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to start by saying there's an error there. It's Government Section Code 56742, not 43.
Okay.
My apologies for that. As mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is an unusual annexation. The City of Delano has purchased property for the sole purpose of expanding their sewer farm. As such, it falls under Government Code Section 56742, which has just a few requirements. First, it has to be located within the same county as the city, is owned by the city, used only for municipal services, and if it is used for wastewater treatment, it does not have a size limit. The rest of the requirements indicate what the city cannot do with the annexed property. So the city cannot use the annexation to annex another non-city owned property to make the boundaries contiguous. If the property is sold, the property reverts back to the unincorporated county. The city can lease for electrical services, but not for development of a shopping center, hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, or lodging houses. Otherwise, the property will cease to be part of the city. When the property ceases to be part of the city shall adopt a resolution confirming detachment. If the property becomes contiguous to the city, the limitations imposed no longer apply. My recommendation is to approve 1852, City of Delano, Annexation Number 58, with conditions imposed in Government Code Section 56742.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Knox. This time we'll move to public comment. Any public comment on 1852 City of Delano? Okay, seeing none. Any commissioner comments or questions?
Move approval.
Okay,
Couch.
we have a motion
Second. Clark.
and the second clerk. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Ayon,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Couch,
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner McKibben,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Thank you. That brings us to item 8, notice of public hearings. And this is item 8, 2025-26 annual final budget, but we're going to move this one to the end of the agenda. So that brings us to commission items number 9. Kern LAFCo Strategic Plan 2025 through 2035 Workshop Facilitator Update. This is to hold a workshop of the commission on a draft strategic plan. Someone other than the executive officer or a commissioner should lead the exercise. To accomplish this, an outside person will be hired and a budget set forth for the effort. Mr. Knox, executive officer report.
Yes, I reached out to both consultants the commission discussed after the last meeting. It took some time to meet with both. Last Thursday, I met with Sue Watson. We had a vigorous conversation, helping her understand what authorities LAFCo has and how our operations might change in the future. On Monday, both Mr. Rice and myself met with Keith Woolridge. He had a lot of LAFCO questions and has ideas about focusing the issues. Both are very interested in the project. After some discussion, it became clear that I had to put a budget to the process. So I've asked both to provide the commission with both a $5,000 scope of work and a $10,000 scope of work. I received proposals from both this morning, but haven't had time to review them yet. So my recommendation at this point is to place this on the agenda for next month, and the commission can review and address any questions and decide the direction that they would like to go at that time.
Yeah, thank you for your due diligence on this.
And this is informational. There's
Okay.
no vote required.
Yeah, thank you. Any comments or questions of staff? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, good job. Brings us to item 10, general business. This is approval of monthly expense list 2502. Any commissioner comments or questions on the expense list? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Okay.
Second, Endicott.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Ione,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Couch,
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner McKibben,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Okay, thank you. So this brings us to general business item B, fee schedule revision, draft hearing, executive officer report.
After 5 years, it's time to consider modifying the fee schedule again. The fees that we charge are the lowest of any LAFCo that we have been able to track. Fees account for 10 to 15% of our yearly budget. The rest is funded. The rest of funding is accounted for in the yearly assessment, which is paid for by a third each of the county, cities, and special districts. Keeping fees low and the assessment relatively high has been the strategy for years, as there is a great volatility in the number and complexity of proceedings handled by the commission each year. If the commission were to make fees a larger portion of the budget, the reserve would need to be much bigger to keep the commission functioning, a concept that commission has not embraced in the past. As the commission considers an increase in staff and corresponding increase in the budget, this is a good time to consider increasing the fees to lessen the impact on the yearly assessment, which will take the beating if we don't add some to the fees. I've calculated the average cost of each proceeding. Over the past 5 years, we have averaged a little more than $13,000 per proceeding. This is down about $2,000 from the average cost calculated 5 years ago. I would love to take credit for this remarkable gain in efficiency, but it's not exactly apples to apples. What we now consider a proceeding has changed. MSRs, budgets, and extension of services have been added to the number of proceedings we count. But either way, the cost is still considerably more than the fees being processed. The other reason to modify the fees now is to address the growing problem with poorly developed maps and legal descriptions. A significant amount of staff time is occupied with addressing these problems, with some revisions requesting 5 or 6 times before these documents are accepted. To be clear, staff wants to be helpful to our partners as much as we can, but in this case, I strongly believe a line has been crossed and we are now doing their work for them. During the conversation with cities and special districts, which was requested that we do as part of the MSR, I also brought up the increase in fees as a way to offset a portion of the assessment, and there were no objections noted from either city managers or special district managers that we met with. Recommendation is to approve the fee schedule as presented, which will be effective July 1st, 2025, which coincides with the start of our fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knox. Any public comment on the fee schedule revision?
I have a question about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many
Commissioner Couch.
people, sorry,
Oh, is it Commissioner Couch?
how many people or how many cases did you have where you felt people were, I'm gonna use the words taking advantage, but turning in work that you had to fix, you were going back probably too many times, excessive numbers?
Do you want to take a stab at that?
I mean, if it's 1 or 2, okay, but if you have, where I'm headed with this is if you have that happening multiple times, should we consider in our fee schedule maybe an hourly rate? There's a fee to apply, and then maybe there's an hourly rate after a certain number of hours that you know it's going to take you a certain number of hours to review it and get it ready for hearing and all that. But if it goes beyond that,
That is exactly what's in the schedule, is an hourly rate that we based
I thought
on.
okay, will we have a flat fee plus? Or is it an hourly only? I thought it was for an annexation, I thought there was a fee that they paid.
Yes, so
$1,000, I've forgotten what the number is.
it's currently $1,200. We're looking to raise that to $1,500 for the entire application. And
Takes it to hearing and everything.
yes.
There's additional fees on top of that.
And there are additional fees on top of that, whether it's our expenses for mailings.
Okay, then remind me, when does the hourly rate kick in?
when we have to send it out to review. So what we did
So
was,
does everybody get an hourly rate?
no.
Okay.
What's going to happen is we're going to get a map and legal description. If Mr. Rice can make simple changes to it and hand it back to them, we're not going to charge them anything extra. If we start going 2 or 3 times where they're not grasping what's being asked or just completely ignoring it and expecting us to do it, we can do one of 2 things. We can start charging them the hourly rate that we have in the fee schedule, or we could turn it over to an engineering firm, and that's the numbers we used was engineering firm numbers as a per hour, and then we would charge them that per hour rate.
The numbers you got were from an engineering firm, not that we're using them, but that's just what you're using as your.
Correct.
where
We
you-
have
where you
no
pulled the
agreement
number
with
from.
engineering firms to review
Okay.
maps at this point. This is their standard rates.
But there isn't really a hard and fast rule on when you start charging them I mean, a minute ago you said if we go back 2 or 3 times, at some point you make a determination,
Yes.
this is going too far.
Yes.
Okay.
We can make a hard rule. It's after 2 revisions, we start charging the rate. We could do something like that. I want to be helpful.
I get it. And I don't want to be too rigid either, but if they're minor revisions, I guess it's best
Yeah.
to leave it at your discretion.
Thank you.
All right. That's all.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments or questions?
I have a question. So when you're doing the revisions, is that normally some sort of negligence, or is it ignorance on their, like what, sorry, if that's too harsh?
Mr. Rice is the one that handles all these, so I'll let him respond.
So when a map and a legal description first comes in, the first thing I do is I check it for local policy, LAFCo policy, to make sure that the LAFCO policy applies. So if I kick it back to them, that's not a big deal because that's their first one. When it comes in again, I then kick it over to the county surveyor. Used to, they were obligated to take it to the surveyor before they brought it to LAFCO. But what that was doing was LAFCO policy was not being applied at that point. So now I kick it over to the county surveyor. He checks it for the county and then does any red lines to make, if it doesn't pass any of the county stuff. A lot of times this is as simple as adding road numbers, adding APNs, putting road right-of-way widths, things like this. He also checks it for the Board of Education or Board of Equalization criteria, which they have a long list, and I put that out in application, what that criteria is. He checks it, he redlines it for that, it goes back to the applicant. The applicant then changes everything according to the red lines. If he brings it back and everything is changed, we're usually good. But what's been happening is he will change the easy stuff. I say he, I apologize. It could be anyone. They will change the easy stuff and the stuff that's simple to change and then kick it back over and not change the rest. Or if there's any actual degrees, minutes, seconds that need to be changed, they'll change some of them and then they'll kick them back. That I could even see going back to them because it has to be verified, it has to be able to be plottable. But when I'm running into issues where they're going back 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, then it's easier for me to just turn around and have it done and fix these areas because it's information that's available to everyone. It's just they're not fixing them, they're missing them.
We have one map right now that you've been working on for over a year?
Year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Oh, you have 2 of those, actually.
Just a question about the number of revisions. So you're providing feedback regarding the specific issues. They're making those revisions, they submit it again, and the revisions aren't revised? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, in some cases, they didn't correct all the revisions. They corrected and added the street names, but they didn't correct and put on the road right-of-way widths. Maybe they didn't add their stamp. They're supposed to have it signed, stamped, and dated when they submit it. And a lot of times, that's one of the most common ones, is their signature that everything's good. Sometimes it's just a matter of, if there's an actual change to the legal description, because it didn't, what we call close when we plot it, then I can understand a new red line going back then or something. But these are things that we've already requested to be changed, and they're not being changed.
So how do we communicate those necessary revisions?
We redline them and with comments in each place, and then send the map and legal description back to them
So they just
to be corrected and resubmitted.
overlook those red lines?
In some cases, yes.
And in other cases?
In other cases, they may have to change a direction or something or other, and which will cause another issue. And them issues I could deal with.
So are there instances where revisions are recommended after second or third review?
Only if something in the other information changes. A recent example would be City of McFarland, where we went through the map process, and during the analysis process, after the map and legal description had already passed review, some more people wanted to come in to clear out an island area. And so we went back and added them. So there's cases like that, but them are one-offs, and that's not what we're talking about here.
We're talking about, we've outlined the necessary revisions, and they have not completed that list of necessary items.
Yes, multiple times, yes.
There are cases where we ask them to make a change and they do, and that creates a problem somewhere else in the map. But they don't correct that, so that, we have to go back and fix that as well. And, yeah.
Yeah, that's more of the scenario I'm trying to drill down on and understand, because I can understand where, there may be some initial issues, errors that need revision. And I can also imagine there are some things that upon second review, staff may say, actually, we need to revise this, this, and this. And so I don't necessarily feel like that's the issue or the fault of the applicant. It's also, on us, incumbent upon us to provide review, provide analysis and recommendations on the front end so that we're not continuing going back and forth, back and forth.
Yes. So I agree with that statement completely, and that's exactly what we're looking at. What's happening a lot of times is we get back the red lines. So let's say there's 40 corrections that have to be done on this. Maybe there was one plot that needed to be replotted in an area or changed around, corrected. When that's going back, they correct the plot, and then they send it back to us without correcting any of the other red lines. So now I'm getting the same thing back, and they fixed one thing, but they didn't fix any of the others. And they only concentrated on one area. And a lot of times, if it's a small district, city, or something like that, I'll ask permission from the engineer or the PLS, the surveyor, and then I will correct it because it's faster for me to correct it than move forward. But Blair doesn't want me doing that anymore. So he's saying this is their responsibility. They need to get this.
Not that we shouldn't provide them the comments to fix it themselves. If we continue to do their work for them, we'll be continuing to do more and more and more work for them. And that's what's happening here in a lot of cases.
Through the chair, why don't we require a deposit with reasonable fees that can be attached to that deposit?
Can you explain more how that would work?
Well, if if there's a percentage of hours that would be committed to a specific document, I don't know, you got various documents, maybe there should be a deposit that's attached to that with reasonable costs built in. So instead of going back and forth, you just take the top off of the deposit and retain it. And then there's no back and forth.
We can do that. It's a great idea.
Excellent. But I do have a comment.
And we would probably want to have a different size retainer based on number of acres. How would you consider? Because we wouldn't need a huge, retainer for, a one parcel annexation.
No, I mean, a lot of those will come in like, City of McFarland, and it was 4 lines. But, we had one.
Need your microphone on, yeah.
We had one from City of McFarland that was basically 4 lines. That's all it was. That one went through quite a bit. We ended up doing 6 or 7 versions because the surveyor that they utilized was out of the county, and we couldn't get a hold of him. He kept forgetting to sign it. He kept forgetting to add a stamp again and again and again. So just different things. He would sign it, not add the stamp. He would add the stamp, not sign it. Things like this, with 4 lines. So not a big deal when it came to the actual plotting and stuff. Now, we have other instances where Lost Hill CSD for that formation, that one took me probably 3 days just to plot because it was so huge. Now, there was a lot of different things going on in there. That one went back and forth. It actually went very, very smooth. It took 6 months to do it, 6 to 7 months, but that one was a lot smoother because the people were correcting what we were asking, and then we'd run down, find another area, and then they would correct that. So a little bit different. So it's different every single time. And so when you're looking at some of these, the complexity could play a role in it, but also the simplicity sometimes can play a role in it. Like I said, adding a stamp, adding a signature.
So my question is, do we do this by number of parcels, number of acres?
Or a fixed
Because
fee.
we're not going to ask a $5,000 deposit on one that has 4 lines,
No.
right? So we need to have a dividing point of how we do that. How would we do that?
Have you guys reviewed other districts or other LAFCos that would?
We don't typically do things like other LAFCos.
Yeah, I understand. But in just the small research that I've done, there are other LAFCos that do require deposits.
They do,
Yeah.
for the entire project.
Yeah,
We do that on formations
sure.
and incorporations. We
But
have
if you
those for those.
If you split it up according to hours, like for instance, San Diego County LAFCO, they implemented a new fee structure with an hourly staff rate. Deposits are required for applications such as special district formation. 9,150 covers 75 hours. Consolidation. There's certain rates for certain things,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I know it's super complex, but it seems like that's the easy route.
So what we do is, before we will start reviewing the application, we take their initial check for the full amount of the annexation.
Yeah.
After that, we will, as we go through the process, we'll get a bill from the assessor's office, elections office, the surveyor of those. We'll have our own postage, whatever notices we do in the paper. We will, after the proceeding ends and we're to the conclusion, we will send them a bill and have them pay that. We don't record it until they pay.
Yeah,
That's our stick to make sure that they pay.
makes sense.
So we do have, in a sense, a deposit at the front end, but not specifically for map and legal fees.
But if you-
legal descriptions.
If you set a fee schedule and this commission approved that fee schedule, then the onus would go to us. If they had an issue, they could come and protest it here, and it would take the heat necessarily off the staff. I mean, the whole idea is to support you guys and what you want to do, but
Yeah.
also make sure that there's not as much back and forth.
Okay. I think the question then is, do we move forward with the fee schedule that's before you now? Or do we need to come back with this again?
I'll move adoption of the fee schedule, but include, I don't know how we do this, give you the authorization on your discretion to ask for a deposit upfront to cover hourly costs and hourly and other labor and other costs.
Okay. I will,
Second or comment?
Comment. I concur with Commissioner Couch. Good idea. Just for clarification, maybe this is for Bud. When you receive something like this, you are saying it's legal description plus map information. Is it coming from the entity, like the district or the city? Is it coming from the manager, public works director, or is it coming from the licensed surveyor? That's the first question.
Yes. It could be coming from any of them. Sometimes that the map and legal is turned in by the planning department of a city. Sometimes it's turned in by the general manager of a special district. A lot of times they will have a consultant that turns it in for them. It could be the
Okay.
engineer, it could be the surveyor.
So when you get it from the engineer or surveyor who are supposed to be licensed, otherwise they should not submit that. And if they are licensed, you need the stamp. When you make the corrections, and if it's going back to the surveyor or the engineer, do you also copy the public works director and the city manager? Because they should know what's going on with their staff to drive up the cost.
Yes, I do.
And they don't say anything, they just,
No, that just usually means I get it back faster.
okay, all right. Well, I sympathize with you. That's a lot of work. And you should not be doing their work.
Well, and I can tell you that we are taking action on our side. We have met with the local surveyors, what is it, union or whatever?
Group. That's a group.
Yeah, the local group. And I actually spoke with some of them today where we're looking at educating them on what LAFCo needs from these people, because what we ask for is not that's not a normal legal
That was my
map.
second recommendation. You
Yeah.
took it out of my mouth to do like a 101 workshop for
Yes.
we're already doing that.
surveyors, civil engineers, and saying, here are the requirements, and this is how to do it. And hopefully they'll take it to heart. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I would actually like to do that as kind of a Zoom where we can record it. And so when newbies have never done LAFCO before, they can go to our website, pull up the information, and they have it available to them. Not that they can't call us. We actually recommend they call us before they even get to that point. But Bud spends a lot of his time explaining their job to them. And that's frustrating and not a good use of his time. I got other projects for him to work on.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
No.
We have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ayon? Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Couch?
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner McKibben?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 10C, remote work policy. This is an update from the Policy Committee. Executive Officer Report, Mr. Knox.
Yeah, the policy committee met right before this. We had a spirited conversation about remote work and how we move forward. The recommendation that was made was to go with option C in your packet, which is the least restrictive of the three that were provided. And I think that's something that we can work with as staff, and everyone will have an understanding up front of what the requirements are to work remotely. So that's the direction we went with this.
Thank you. Any public comment on remote work policy? Okay, seeing none. Any commissioner comment or questions? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Endicott.
Second, Couch.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Ayon,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Couch,
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner McKibben,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to the policy committee for your work on that. This is item 10D, policy MSR sphere review. Executive officer report, Mr. Knox.
At last month's meeting, the commission asked that before taking up a new policy that affects our partners, outreach to the cities and special districts be conducted. As such, Bud and I met with both city managers and management from special districts over the past couple of weeks. After making a presentation outlining why and how MSR policy was going to change, I opened it up to questions and comments. The response from city managers was generally positive. Comments were made about poorly run special districts that are adjacent or nearby their respective cities. Both cities and special district asked how agencies we picked to go in the first batch of MSRs, and I informed them that my concept was that the commission would make a choice likely based on my recommendations. There were comments made by a special district general manager supporting that MSR should be handled in the budget and not charged individually to cities or districts that are being reviewed. With that, my recommendation is approve additional funding to hire a full-time employee or part-time employees to provide in the draft budget for purposes of development of municipal service reviews in-house. And the simplest way to collect the revenues necessary to begin this effort is to include them in the annual budget and absorb the cost.
Okay, with that, thank you, Mr. Knox. Any public comment on item D? Okay, seeing none, moving on to commissioner comments or questions. Okay,
On this item?
Yes.
Commissioner Couch.
Could you provide us, here's what I want the board to be aware of. Take an example of doing an MSR for one of the ones you've got in mind. Okay?
Yes.
When you complete the MSR, you're going to have a proposed recommendation for us, or a recommendation for the board.
Options.
Options. And those options are going to be, and I want you to tell us what those options are and how many options there might be. There's probably 2 or 3 or 4 options that we're always going to have.
Yes.
I want us to be aware of what our next steps will be and the decisions we're going to have to be making after you do the MSR and after you make a recommendation to us and you say, here's your options board, choose from these things. What are those things?
Yes. The idea is to collect information on these special districts, understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, and from there, we will know whether they are, capable of continuing to run as an efficient district, whether they may need some help, whether it's education or it may be they need additional funding or to raise their rates or whatever that is. One of the options could be to consolidate with another district or a city. The specific case I'm thinking of right now is Kern CSD. This district has had significant problems for years. That has really come to a head over the last year. We do not have a budget currently to do MSRs on Kern CSD.
So take that one specifically and tell us the services they provide and what the options are likely to be.
They provide water and sewer.
Okay?
And fire hydrants and a couple of street lights.
Okay?
A couple of street lights. My concept is not only to do an MSR on Inyo Kern CSD, but also do one on Indian Wells Valley Water District. And potentially also do one on City of Ridgecrest, who hasn't had one since, an MSR since 2007, 2004. And start really looking at specifically the water issues. The Indian Wells Valley is extremely overdrafted. There have been fines, and it's a mess. Potentially, one voice may be better for them, one larger voice, than three smaller voices. That's a conversation that needs to be had out there. I don't know the answer to what is the ultimate, recommendation that should be made, because I really don't have the data. What I have is somebody told me this, somebody told me that. I've got a little bit here that I've gotten from State Water Board, who's also going to have to be involved, because the last thing I want to do is merge two districts, and this one district that's been doing it right is now going to be required to take on all the debt for the one who didn't do it right. We're going to have to figure out a way around that. That's not going to be easy.
But it's under LAFCo's, within, LAFCO has the power to force those agencies or districts to merge.
Correct. We can go through that process.
And that's not a that's even if both of them protested and don't want it. Their boards unanimously don't want it, we can make them do that. Is that right?
The commission can approve it, and my understanding is it would then go to a vote of the people.
In each district?
In each district, correct.
I mean, that's kind of, would you,
If it meets the protest threshold.
He's telling me there's a protest threshold that has to be met before it goes to a vote.
is it basically the Prop 218 election that you go through?
No.
Or is it?
No, it's
a
more
different-
it's more like an annexation, where if we don't have 100% consent, we do a protest hearing. And if we have 50% plus one that protests, then it goes to election. It's more along those lines.
Who picks up the cost for that process you just described?
We charge currently $500 for a protest hearing. I just raised that to $750.
But do they do the mailings?
We do,
We do them.
yes. And we charge them for that.
So this is a district that we may, here's where I'm headed. I always come back to this. This is a district where we may decide they don't have enough money to operate. But we may go through this process and start charging them.
There's always the option of the commission can waive those charges.
But then we're paying for it, right?
Somebody-
Ultimately,
right.
somebody's gonna have to pay.
We could ask, State Water Board has money for consolidations. We have worked with them before. Granted, it took 12 years to get 5 mutual water companies.
Okay.
This is not going to be a fast process at all.
Can I weigh in?
Yeah.
to the
Yes.
board?
Yeah, Commissioner Sirgus.
I think under LAFCO jurisdiction or rules, we are more or less mandated. We may be the only entity in California mandated to provide for regional planning services, like water, sewer, fire. I don't think any other agency is like that. I could be wrong on the county part, but to my knowledge, there are no regional planning services like that, plus all the special districts and everything else. Consequently, we need information in order to be a good steward of that requirement under law. We should be getting MSR information. However, we should be, I guess, cognizant of the fact that there are costs involved and we don't want to overly burden folks. If there's a way to minimize that, I'm more than in favor of that, especially what you're recommending. Ultimately, in your situation, in that example, if there is a need to consolidate services, that is an option that the commission has to agree to.
Correct.
We could say no,
You could.
so it never gets off the ground. Or we could say okay, but the protest hearing says no. So there's another way to negate that. Or we could just, do we have the option of saying, as a policy, we are not going to force this. It's going to have to be a voluntary consolidation. And just say, from here on out, we're not forcing. It's like, under the law, we can be, there's police powers, but they're optional. I don't think it's mandated that we have that. We exercise them. We have them, but we don't have to exercise them. We could always say, if the consolidation is to go forward, we need voluntary agencies to cooperate. Otherwise, it doesn't go forward. There's different ways to make this a little bit more palatable, I think, and different ways to make it a little bit more equitable. How that is to be done, I don't know, but I think I'd be in favor of voting for your recommendation just to get it off the board, because we need information. Like you said, you can't act intelligently unless you have information, and zero information means zero decisions. That's all.
Let me clarify that we do not do land use planning specifically. The regional that you're talking about, we are involved with that process. A lot of these, what we're talking about, the State Water Board is going to have to be involved. And yeah, they're extremely slow. Frustratingly so. But that's the only way that's going to be funding to pull this off. But the state cannot, they don't have the authority to consolidate these. LAFCo does. I've written them an ugly letter saying, because they said, we want to consolidate these two districts. I said, well, no, you can't. That's LAFCo's authority. I'm willing to work with you on the process, but you don't have that authority. And so they're a little frustrated with me for pointing that out to them, but that's where we are in that process. It's not, the state can say, yes, they should be consolidated and have money for that, but we're actually the ones who have to get it done, if it really needs to be done.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, playing devil's advocate here, if an MSR is not done on Kern and it fails, whatever failure means, what's the action then?
Typically, that will end up in court, and in a lot of cases, the county is asked to come in and take over those operations. The county of Kern actually has no water operations. They provide water nowhere in the county.
Correct.
They do provide sewer service, but not water. And they don't have any infrastructure out on the east side to provide those. So they're going to look at possibly a neighboring district or city that has the ability to provide those services, which would be, in this case, Indian Wells Valley Water District, or which they could, the state board can come in and say, basically, we don't think you're operational. We're gonna put somebody in to operate this district for you. That's a possibility, and they could even hire someone like Indian Wells Valley Water District to come in and run it on a short-term basis while things are getting cleaned up. That other party could be City of Ridgecrest as well. More likely is Indian Wells Valley, but that's those options. And of course, the crazy option is the Navy can come in and say, this is a national security issue. We're now taking it over. That's always a possibility as well. So there are multiple answers to that question.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Knox,
Yes.
who's asking for this MSR? Is it the State Water Board, or the district's asking for it? Are we wanting to do it on our own volition? Where's this coming from?
The State Water Board has asked that we look at options. Indian Wells Valley has asked that we do that. Kern CSD has not.
Okay.
They believe that they can turn their district around with all 200 connections that they have and make themselves viable again. In the long run, and I've seen this over and over again, especially in the east side of California, the big eat the small. Every time I run up and down 395 and 14, I see trucks going up and down that say LA Department of Water and Power. They control the water supply. And if you're a small district, you're going to get eaten by folks like that. And whether it's LADWP or it's the State Water Board, if you don't have, friends and people who can help you and have some strength, they're going to get run over. And I don't want to see that. I actually want to see local control operating local operations.
Okay, so the MSR is a vehicle to help facilitate best practice, analysis of services. Should it expand? Should it contract? What is it we're dealing with? How do we help them? So by doing this exercise, we're ultimately helping the local district and the local population.
Yes.
Got it.
And we may get through it and say, district, you've done a terrific job of riding the ship. Please move forward as you are. I mean, that would be I would love for that to happen in every case. I know better.
I don't have the best read in East Kern, but I don't know. I would defer to my colleague here, what he thinks is best. Not to put the pressure on you, but you know the area. I don't have a dog in the hunt other than I want to serve our county residents the best we can.
So how many?
Provided that this body doesn't disproportionately pay for that.
Right. Trying to figure out how to phrase this. So, sorry, I may be thick, but how does it, if we agree that something, one district has to take over another district, how do we account for, the negatives, the funding negatives within that one district? How is that accounted for? Is that the county helps cover that, or are we burdening the other district with that?
You can put an assessment on a specific area and create something like a improvement district in that area that pays for it. State Water Board can come up with funds. You could do a parcel tax. There's multiple options for raising those funds that would help equalize the burden. In this case, Indian Wells Valley Water District has significant debt themselves. So we may be looking at combining two districts that make it worse. But I don't know that until I have a really good look at the data and know what we're looking at.
So since I'm relatively new to this, how long does the combining of districts, what's the normal length of time with
We
that?
don't have a normal length. We haven't done it in 30
6
years.
Okay.
We've done it in the past.
Mhm.
We have combined districts in multiple places.
If you don't mind, one more comment. You brought up something very interesting. It's like system theory. Everything's connected. So in the event of a major fire in this area, and there's no water infrastructure or fire infrastructure other than fire stations, would the lack of water be an issue? And the only thing I can think of is what happened in Palisades and other areas down south. If if districts that provide water are not operating to par, would that prevent them from meeting a fire disaster situation? Because you need water to fight with fire. Obviously, CAL FIRE and BLM and those guys can use their crews And I don't know if there's a nearby reservoir and use their helicopters, but how will that all work? Because I think we are now in CAL FIRE has a brand new map. I just looked at it. Bakersfield is partly in it. I did not look at Ridgecrest. I don't even know how that affects that, but it's interesting how things are changing because of climate change. Water is important, not only for potable water drinking purposes and irrigation of crops, but also for fighting fires. So that's a question I'm thinking out loud. I don't even know if it even pertains to our discussion here. Just food for thought.
I would have to agree with you. In fact, we've had the city of Bakersfield I think it was on your recommendation. The city of Bakersfield is looking at a new fire mitigation plan. And we have met with the fire chief and the GIS person to help provide them information on the outlying unincorporated areas around Metro Bakersfield. Because chances are the fire's not going to start in Bakersfield, it's going to start outside and move its way in. So on the periphery of incorporated Bakersfield, you have a bunch of unincorporated that has mutual water companies. Many of them don't have proper water storage and likely pressure to do major fire. A lot of them don't have fire hydrants. So there are multiple issues there. So we were trying to help them get information to help them with that process. I'm also looking at it from a standpoint of, well, it'd be better for the city of Bakersfield to annex those areas and bring them in, get them up to speed, and so you're not running into those fire issues. There's multiple reasons why to bring them into the city, but that's one of them. You went there. that.
So I have one more question, and it's probably implied with it being even on the agenda, but do we happen to know how many are potentially failing of these districts, or because it's on here, that's why we need the MSR to know. But if we're doing 5 to 6 a year, I mean, how many districts?
Of course, I'm going to start with the ones that I hear about.
Okay.
Or, in the case of Kern, it makes sense to look at the whole valley as a water. But we could also we can keep it in East Kern, look at California City. My understanding, they haven't passed a budget in 6 years. They haven't done an audit in 10. They got major financial issues. That may be something that we need to look at as well. So there's multiple ways to look at this. But I'm gonna be bringing it to the commission with my justification of why we should take which ones first and provide you options for that as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Let's talk specifically about Kern, because you brought it up as a kind of a prime example.
Yes.
The whole issue is going to include Kern, Indian Wells Valley Water District, and City of Ridgecrest, right? You want to do those three?
Those are the big players in the valley.
Okay, well, those are the same three entities, plus the county. There might be others that are involved in the Groundwater Sustainability Agency.
Yes.
And the question is really to Tom. Can we get into closed session and discuss, because I'm with you now, I'm trying to say this artfully. That's a bit of a powder keg. That's a bit of a powder keg legally, that whole issue of, it's kind of ground zero for, our adjudication's gonna take precedent? Is the GSA or the GS Groundwater Sustainability Plan gonna take precedent? And are we walking into something there that we LAFCo might not want to be part of? Can we talk about it in closed session because of the potential?
If
We haven't been threatened to be sued, no, nothing like that. There is no,
Well, you don't have to be threatened.
there is potential litigation that we are not part of already. But the question is, can we talk about in closed session the ramifications to LAFCo if we were to go down this path with that litigation that's already,
Well, there may be a way to do that.
okay.
We'd have to ferret out the agenda item, how that would look, and make sure that there is some fear of litigation or some other
So can I refer that to you just to take a look at?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, anyone want to make a motion on staff's budget and staff recommendation?
In an effort to, I don't even know what the word is, mollify.
That's a good word. You picked a good
Why
word.
don't we allow Tom to do his work and bring this back to us next month?
You will be approving a budget here shortly. That's dependent on knowing whether we're going to move forward with this or not.
Do we have the capability of doing a budget amendment mid-year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Couch,
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner McKibben,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to 8A, 2025-2026 Annual Final Budget. This is consideration of 2025-2026 proposed final budget. The budget for Kern LAFCo is determined by the commission and funded by the County of Kern, incorporated cities within Kern County, and independent special districts that Kern LAFCo is designated as a principal county, with each category of agency paying 1/3 of the budget per Government Code Section 5638B1A. The proposed budget is required to be adopted prior to the final budget being considered per Government Code Section 56381A. Executive Officer Report, Mr. Knox.
There are two columns of budgets for the commission to consider. The first column is a business as usual budget. This will be a 5% increase over last year's budget. I went over these numbers at the last commission meeting, and they have not changed since the preliminary budget was presented last month. The second column is my attempt to quantify what an additional full-time staff member will cost per year. The number comes up to 18% more than last year's budget, or 13% increase over the business as usual budget in column A. These numbers have not changed since the preliminary budget was presented last month. Depending on how the commission decided to move forward with the MSR policy, which you just did, is relevant to this issue. One of the items that was brought up at the last meeting was security for these commission meetings. We reached out to the owners of the building here to see who they use for security for their buildings, and Transwest was contacted. We also reached out to M&S Security, who provides the alarm service for our office. Transwest, after repeated attempts, never got back to us, and M&S and others let us know that they only contract for 6-hour shifts. I don't want 6-hour meetings. Please. Commissioner Zaragoza, we had a conversation about this. I very much thank him for this effort. Came up with a company that I've never heard of, but they're willing to do 3-hour shifts and work for $50 per hour. That equals $150 per meeting. 10 meetings, you have additional $1,500 to add to the professional services portion of the budget. The last item is unfunded liability, which continues to be a constant struggle to reduce the amount of unfunded CalPERS liability this commission carries. While we have tried to make progress, the downturn of COVID has made the last few years difficult, as CalPERS is always 2 or 3 years behind. For several years, we have placed 25% of funds left over at the end of the year towards paying the unfunded liability. Last year, we upped it to 50%. That amount plus a healthy year in 2023, and we are making some progress towards lowering that number again. I would like to keep trying to make progress towards that goal, albeit we have no control of CalPERS investments or the unstable market that we currently are operating in. Wow. So my recommendation is to approve the draft final budget for 2025, including a potential 5th employee, an additional $1,500 for security services as LAFCo at LAFCo commission meetings, and use 50% of the carryover from the previous year to pay down CalPERS unfunded liability to reduce our reserves to meet our existing formula.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knox. That brings us to public comment on our annual final budget, if any. Okay, seeing none, moving to commissioner comments or questions.
Thank you, Executive Director Knox. We think that I appreciate you contacting. I know someone did contact I-21 Private Security, and they told me they've been in contact with someone, but they didn't mention who. I appreciate that. What is interesting, I did that. I did a little bit of outreach, and everybody wants to charge 5 or 6 hours minimum. I'm not sure why. I just said, it's a 2 or 3 hour meeting max. And I said, well, I guess they want to be compensated just to show up. And this company was the only one that said we could do it for 3 hours, which is the minimum, I guess. And for those of you who don't know, I was, if you've ever been to, Starbucks downtown, the one that's right near the Chevron or that gas station, the security is there for that whole commercial strip joint. It's just they're very good. It's unarmed, and they just make sure the homeless and vagabonds are there. They just make sure it's really clean cut. So I don't know them personally, but based on what I've seen and based on the price point, and I have talked to a few of the ladies in our group, Commissioner Fowler and my alternate Mello, I think they would agree that even though the men may feel there's no security issue, a lot of the ladies here do. And I don't know if anybody's in the audience, but this way they would be able to maybe show up like 30 minutes before the meeting and stay another 30 minutes after the meeting to make sure there's safe egress from this facility, assuming we're still here. I don't know where we're going to be in 6 months. We may be homeless in 6 months, who knows. But anyway, so downtown is interesting at night sometimes. And I don't want to mention anybody, but we have folks who target politicians and do crazy stuff. And I would feel more comfortable if there was somebody at the front door with a security jacket looking on our behalf. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Saragosa, for bringing attention to this item and for your research and finding that niche firm. I actually had breakfast this morning at that breakfast spot by Starbucks. I saw the security was in good shape. There were no issues there when I was there. It's safe. It's Bob Bell's shopping center. So I think it's a good service. I think where we're at here could use some attention for our audience and commissioners and our folks that attend. And I think those are nice niche hours. Oftentimes we have session before or policy committee before. So, and I think we tend to go 2 or 3 hours. So I think it's a good fit. Any other commissioner comments or questions?
I will move approval of the final budget as proposed by Blair.
Second.
Yeah, it includes your item. Okay, so Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Couch,
Yes.
Commissioner Endicott,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner McKibben,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza.
Aye.
All ayes, motion passed.
Okay, that brings us to, thank you, Executive Officer Report. miscellaneous items?
Just two things tonight. A couple of folks have not turned in their ethics certificates. If you have not done that yet, please do that soon. And looking to make changes on the website, and I was interested to know whether commissioners would like pictures of themselves in a bio of themselves. You want somebody else's bio on yours. Some people like the exposure and some people do not. So I'm kind of bringing it to you to kind of get I kind of either want everybody or nobody.
I'm fine with pictures and bios.
Well, we actually had you in mind.
I'm okay as long as there's no private information. Kind of a thought. I think the website is really important so folks can get a hold of staff. I guess it's a question whether or not you want to have a contact for the private commissioners, like an email. My only concern is that I wouldn't want my private email there, and I don't know if LAFCo wants to have a LAFCo email for commissioners. Any thoughts on that?
I just assume, I was just as well like to have any issues brought directly to me and I bring them to the commissioners.
It works for me.
It's that simple.
If the commission agrees, I agree.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay? We're gonna need some pictures from all of you. Or we're gonna have to bring a camera and do it against the wall here or something at one of the meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, you have someone there.
Yeah, we do.
Not all of them have that.
Most of you do. We can probably hijack them. So,
We're done.
but we'll need your help with your bios, unless you really want me to write them.
Any other items you have?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Our next meeting is May 21st.
Okay, that brings us to adjournment. Thank
I
you.
had a follow-up question. Is this feasible or even admirable or necessary to have, after executive officer comments, director comments? In this way, it's just kind of like an open end, oh, by the way, this is what I'm working on that might be of interest to LAFCo, or, oh, by the way, this or that. This way, just a kind of a placeholder so we can chime in if we want to share something that might be of relative use.
Well, that would be under commission items.
Yeah, number 9.
That would be the place to do that.
So that would also be that, okay. I
That
just
would be the
wanted to
place to do
clarify that,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
So at that point, we'll make that, I'll make that note, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Easter or happy Passover. Okay, we're adjourned.